Adaora, a successful lawyer in Enugu, is in love with Chuka, a humble schoolteacher from a traditional family. When they decide to marry, Chuka's family demands an extravagant bride price from Adaora's family, despite her being the breadwinner and already supporting Chuka financially. Frustrated by the hypocrisy and gender roles, Adaora boldly offers to pay her own bride price, igniting controversy in both families and across their community. Her decision sparks debates about tradition, ego, and the true meaning of marriage. As tensions rise, Adaora must confront her own pride, her parents' expectations, and Chuka's insecurities. Is love enough when tradition stands in the way? So sit back, relax, and know this interesting story. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Let's dive in. The restaurant wasn't fancy. In fact, it sat quietly on a corner in Enugu, where the ceiling fans creaked and the jollof rice always tasted like someone's mother made it. That's exactly why Adaora loved it. It wasn't Instagram-worthy, but it was real, just like Chuka. He cleared his throat nervously across the table, wiping his palm against his jeans for the third time that evening. She smiled knowingly, sipping her Zobo. "Are you okay?" she asked, eyes dancing. "Depends," he said, reaching into his pocket, "on whether you'll say yes." Adaora blinked. Her glass paused mid-air. Chuka dropped to one knee beside their small table, pulling out a simple silver ring. "Adaora Nkem," he said, voice trembling slightly, "will you marry me?" She stared at him, mouth open, then laughed, a soft, delighted laugh that made the older woman at the next table clap quietly. "Yes," Adaora whispered, eyes glossy. "Of course, yes!" The restaurant erupted in cheers. The waiter, who'd clearly been tipped off, brought a tiny cake with the words "My Ada Forever" in shaky icing. For Adaora, it was perfect. Not because of the ring, which wasn't dazzling, or the cake, which leaned awkwardly to one side, but because of Chuka himself. He was steady, kind, and stubbornly optimistic. A schoolteacher who spent more time on lesson notes than on his wardrobe, he had a way of making the world seem gentler. She, on the other hand, was the storm. Adaora worked at one of the top law firms in Enugu, a woman whose phone never stopped buzzing, whose heels clicked confidently into courtrooms, whose face sometimes appeared in the newspapers after a big win. She earned enough to support herself, her younger siblings, and, quietly, Chuka when things got tough. As she stared at the ring now glinting faintly under the yellow restaurant bulb, her heart swelled. This was her choice, her man, her future. Still, as the cheers died down, a shadow tiptoed into her thoughts. Her parents. Her father, stern and traditional, had often hinted at the kind of man he expected his daughter to marry. A banker, a politician's son, someone with influence. Her mother, softer but no less pragmatic, spoke in hushed tones about security. To them, marriage was not only about love, but also about status, stability, and respect in the community. Would they accept Chuka? Later that night, after the excitement of phone calls to her closest friends and selfies of the ring, Adaora lay awake beside Chuka in his small apartment. The power had gone out, leaving the room wrapped in humid darkness, and she listened to his steady breathing. "You're quiet," he murmured. "I'm just thinking," she said. "About what?" "My parents," she admitted. Chuka sighed, a sound heavy with understanding. "I know they don't think I'm enough." Adaora turned toward him, touching his face in the dark. "Don't say that. You're more than enough for me." "For you, maybe," he said softly. "But marriage in our place is not just between two people. It's families, communities, bride price lists." There it was, the word she'd been avoiding. Bride price. A practice as old as their ancestors, meant to honor the bride's family, but now, more often than not, twisted into a show of wealth and ego. Adaora had heard the stories. Families demanding cars, cash in millions, endless cartons of drinks. She knew her parents would not be modest. "We'll handle it," she said firmly, though her chest tightened. Together. Chuka didn't reply immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was almost a whisper. "I don't ever want you to regret choosing me, Ada." Adaora kissed his forehead, though she felt a small tremor in her own heart. "Never," she promised. The next morning, Enugu City buzzed as usual, KK horns blaring, vendors calling out, church bells echoing in the distance. But for Adaora, everything seemed brighter. She stepped into her law office with a spring in her stride, flashing the ring at her colleagues, who squealed and demanded every detail. Her friend Ifeoma, also a lawyer but more cynical, raised an eyebrow. "So it's official?" Chuka the schoolteacher? Yes, Adaora said simply, refusing to take the bait. You know your parents won't like it. I'll handle them, Adaora replied. Ifeoma gave her a long look, then shrugged. Love is sweet, but tradition can be bitter. I hope you're ready. Adaora laughed it off, but Ifeoma's words lingered long after she buried herself in case files. By evening, when she returned to Chuka's apartment, the weight of reality pressed harder. He was marking exercise books at the small dining table, his brow furrowed. She watched him for a moment, her heart swelling with affection and worry in equal measure. Let's tell them this weekend, Adaora said suddenly. Chuka looked up, startled. Your parents? Yes, it's better we start early. He nodded slowly, setting down his pen. His eyes met hers, and she saw both fear and determination there. Okay, he said. This weekend. Adaora smiled, though her stomach tightened. The proposal had been perfect, but the real test was only just beginning. The road to Adaora's family home in Independence layout curved gently past flamboyant trees, their scarlet flowers spilling like fire onto the asphalt. Chuka gripped the steering wheel of his old Toyota Corolla a little too tightly, his palms damp. Beside him, Adaora adjusted her earrings in the side mirror, pretending not to notice. You'll be fine, she said finally. He exhaled, a shaky laugh escaping. Easy for you to say. It's not your future in-laws I'm meeting for the first time. Adaora reached over, placing her hand on his. They'll see what I see. Chuka gave her a doubtful glance, but said nothing. Adaora's parents lived in a sprawling compound with a tall black gate and a garden her mother tended meticulously. As the car pulled in, Chuka's stomach knotted tighter. The house loomed. White walls, wide verandas, the kind of home that whispered old money and stern expectations. Inside, the scent of polish and fried plantain hung in the air. Adaora's younger sister, Nkechi, opened the door with a squeal, hugging her tightly. Her eyes darted to Chuka, curious, then mischievous. So this is the famous teacher, she teased. Adaora shot her a warning glance. Behave. Chuka smiled politely, though his ears burned. The sitting room was wide and formal, the kind where no one dared slump into the sofa. Heavy curtains blocked most of the sunlight, casting the space in muted gold. On the wall hung portraits of Adaora's father in his prime, one in his civil service uniform, another in Agbada at a state function. Chief Okafor sat there now, still carrying himself with the authority of a man used to being obeyed. His wife, elegant in a lace wrapper, sat beside him, her expression softer but no less scrutinizing. Daddy, Mummy, Adaora said, her voice carefully light. This is Chuka. Chuka bent low, greeting respectfully in Igbo. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Ma. Her father's eyes swept over him like a ledger, noting every detail, from the well-worn shoes polished to a shine to the slightly fraying cuff of his shirt. You're welcome, Chief Okafor said finally, his tone measured. Thank you, sir, Chuka replied, taking a seat only after Adaora's mother gestured. Tea was brought in, served in delicate china cups. For a moment the clink of spoons was the only sound. Then Chief Okafor cleared his throat. So, he began, his gaze fixed on Chuka, you are a teacher. Yes, sir, I teach English at Community Secondary School, Akara Layout. The chief nodded slowly, as though tasting the words. A noble profession, though not a profitable one. Adaora's jaw tightened. Daddy? Her mother interjected smoothly. Tell us about your family, Chuka. Grateful, he explained, his father a retired headmaster in Suka, his mother who sold fabric in the village market, his siblings scattered between university and apprenticeships, humble roots but dignified. As he spoke, Adaora's heart swelled with pride. But she also saw the flicker of disapproval in her father's eyes, the silent measurement, the weighing of status. When the small talk faded, Adaora's father leaned back, his voice firm. Marriage is not just between two people, he said. It is between families. It is about legacy, respect, and honor. Do you understand this, young man? Yes, sir, Chuka said, his voice steady though his hands clenched on his knees. Adaora's mother smiled faintly, turning to her daughter. You are sure about this? Adaora met her gaze without hesitation. I am. Her mother studied her, then nodded slowly, though the tension in the room remained unbroken. Dinner was served. Pounded yam, bitter leaf soup, grilled fish. Chuka ate carefully, minding every gesture, aware of eyes on him. Nkechi whispered jokes under her breath, but even her mischief couldn't soften the gravity of the evening. At one point, Chief Okafor set down his spoon and asked, "Do you have land, property?" Chuka paused, the question striking deep. "Not yet, sir, but I'm saving. I believe in starting small and building steadily." The chief's grunt carried more weight than words. Adaora spoke quickly. "Daddy Chuka is hard-working. He's responsible. That's what matters." "What matters," her father said sharply, "is that you do not marry beneath yourself. You are a lawyer. You carry this family's name into society." Silence fell heavy. Chuka's appetite vanished. After dinner, as they prepared to leave, Adaora's mother walked them to the door. She touched Adaora's arm gently. "He seems kind," she said softly. "But your father, you know how he is." "I know," Adaora replied, her voice tight. In the car, Chuka exhaled deeply, gripping the steering wheel. "Your father does not like me." Adaora reached for his hand. "He doesn't know you yet." Chuka shook his head. "He doesn't need to know me. He's already decided. To him, I am not enough." Adaora turned to him fiercely. "You are enough. For me, that's all that matters." But as they drove into the night, the weight of her father's words sat between them, unspoken but undeniable. Back inside, Chief Okafor poured himself a glass of palm wine, his brows furrowed. "Young men these days," he muttered. "No ambition. A schoolteacher wanting to marry my daughter?" His wife sighed. "He may not be rich, but he is sincere. Did you see the way he looked at her?" Chief Okafor snorted. "Love does not pay school fees. Love does not build houses." Nkechi, lingering nearby, piped up, "But Adaora already pays her own bills. She doesn't need." Her father's glare silenced her. "This family will not lower its standards." His wife said nothing, but her eyes softened with worry. She knew Adaora's stubbornness, she knew the fire in her daughter's heart, and she feared what would happen when that fire met her husband's iron will. That night, Adaora lay awake in her own apartment, staring at the ceiling. She replayed the evening in her mind, the cautious smiles, the sharp questions, the heavy silence. She thought of Chuka's hand, warm but trembling in hers, of her father's words, "Do not marry beneath yourself." Anger flared, but so did fear. Love was supposed to be simple, but already she could see the storm gathering. The bride price, the list, the negotiations, the expectations loomed like a mountain ahead. And she wondered, would their love be strong enough to climb it? The courtyard of Adaora's family compound buzzed with quiet ceremony. Chairs had been arranged in neat rows beneath the canopy. Crates of malt and soft drinks lined the wall, ready for serving. The air carried the thick sweetness of roasted corn from a nearby vendor, mingling with the earthy smell of wet sand after the morning rain. It was the ikuaka, the formal knocking. Chuka's people had come to Adaora's family home, carrying bottles of palm wine, kola nuts, and nervous smiles. Chuka stood at the edge of his family's small delegation, adjusting his glasses as his uncles led the way. His father, the retired headmaster, walked slowly but upright, a man of modest means yet unbending dignity. His mother carried a handbag stuffed with envelopes, worry lines etched into her face. Adaora watched from the veranda, her heart pounding. She was dressed in a fitted lace blouse and wrapper, coral beads at her wrists. Her sister Nkechi hovered beside her, whispering commentary with every arrival. Look at the car they came with," she muttered, nodding toward the dusty Sienna bus Chuka's relatives had rented. "Our neighbours will talk." Adaora shot her a glare. "Keep quiet." But deep down she knew her sister was right. Her family's compound was used to glossy SUVs, not humble Sienna buses. Already some cousins were smirking. The ceremony began with greetings and formalities. Adaora's father sat regally at the head of his family, his agbada spread around him like a king's robe. His friends, elders, and kinsmen filled the front rows, nodding with practiced solemnity. "Welcome," Chief Okafor said as Chuka's family settled. "You are here to tell us why you have come." One of Chuka's uncles rose, clearing his throat. "We have come to knock on the door of this house, to ask for the hand of your daughter Adaora, in marriage to our son Chuka." Applause and murmurs followed. Tradition was being honoured. Palm wine was poured, kola nuts broken and shared. Prayers were said in Igbo, invoking blessings on the union. For a moment Adaora relaxed. It was proceeding smoothly. Then came the part she had been dreading. An aunt from her mother's side stood and handed over a crisp white envelope. "This," she declared, "is the list." Chuka's mother received it with both hands, bowing slightly, but as she unfolded the sheets inside, Adaora saw her face fall. The list was long. too long. 24 cartons of assorted drinks, beer, malt, mineral, wine. 2 goats, suitcases of clothes, shoes, jewellery, head ties, cash sums for mother's back, father's honour, uncle's cola, envelopes for youth, for cousins, for even the community masquerade society. And at the bottom, in bold letters, 3,000 bride price. A stunned silence followed as Chuka's mother passed the papers to her husband. He adjusted his glasses, reading slowly, his lips pressed thin. His hand trembled slightly as he turned the pages. "This is a heavy list," he said at last. Chief Okafor leaned back, unbothered. "Our daughter is not just any woman. She is a lawyer, a star. Such a woman cannot be given away lightly." Chuka's uncle cleared his throat nervously. "Chief, we respect tradition, but surely this list is excessive?" Adaora's father's eyes hardened. "If you are not ready to value her, perhaps you should not be here." Chuka felt his stomach churn. He could feel the eyes of his uncles shifting, the quiet shame settling over them. They were not poor, but this list was beyond them. He thought of his teacher's salary, his modest savings. Even with Adaora's help, it was a mountain. Adaora watched the scene unfold, heat rising in her chest. She wanted to scream. She was the one earning 6 figures at the firm. She was the one paying rent, buying groceries, covering small gaps when Chuka's salary delayed. And yet here her family sat, demanding millions, pretending as though they were giving away some fragile jewel who had never lifted a finger for herself. It was hypocrisy, dressed as tradition. Her mother caught her eye across the room, a silent plea for patience, but Adaora's hands curled into fists at her sides. The negotiations dragged on. Chuka's family tried to reason. "We will provide what we can," his father said, voice calm but weary. "But this list is beyond our capacity. Marriage is about unity, not show." An elder from Adaora's side scoffed. "If you cannot afford the list, how will you afford to care for her?" Adaora bit her tongue until it hurt. She wanted to shout, "I can care for myself," but she held back, knowing it would only make things worse. Beside her, Nkechi leaned close, whispering, "You see, Daddy will never accept this teacher. Better tell him you've changed your mind now." Adaora snapped her head toward her sister, her eyes blazing. Never. By the time the meeting ended, no agreement had been reached. The list sat heavy in Chuka's father's briefcase, like a curse. His family left with polite smiles that could not hide their humiliation. As the Sienna bus drove away, Adaora's father exhaled in satisfaction. If they are serious, they will find a way. If not, let her move on. Her mother said nothing, though her eyes followed Adaora, who stormed into the house, wrapper sweeping the floor like a queen in revolt. That night, Adaora met Chuka in his apartment. The moment the door closed, words poured out. "They embarrassed you," she said fiercely. "They embarrassed me. A list like that. For what? I am the one feeding this family half the time." Chuka sat heavily on the bed, his shoulders slumped. "Ada, I don't know how we can do this." "We will do it," she snapped. "Or rather, I will." He looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" She lifted her chin, eyes blazing. "If they want bride price, I will pay it, with my own money." Chuka stared at her as though she had spoken blasphemy. You can't say that." "Why not?" "Because it is shameful," he whispered, voice breaking. "It is not how things are done. If you pay your own bride price, what does that make me? A child? A beggar?" Adaora's anger softened at the pain in his eyes, but only slightly. "What does it make me," she asked quietly, "if I let my parents destroy us with their greed?" For a long time, silence hung between them, broken only by the hum of the ceiling fan. Chuka dropped his face into his hands. Adaora reached for him, but he pulled away, shaking his head. "I don't know, Ada," he said hoarsely. "I don't know if our love is strong enough for this." Her heart twisted. She had never felt so furious at her family, so helpless before the weight of tradition, so afraid of losing him. But deep inside, a fire was already burning. If her parents thought she would bend, they didn't know her at all. The week after the introduction was a blur of whispers. Neighbours in Independence Layout already knew the story. How the teacher's family had carried a Sienna bus into the compound of the Okafors. How they had received the bride price list with downcast eyes. How they had left looking smaller than when they arrived. Adaora heard the gossip at church, at work, even in the supermarket. The unspoken verdict was clear. Chuka was not man enough for her. Each rumour only hardened her resolve. One humid Thursday evening, she returned to her parents' home, summoned by her mother. The living room was full again. Her father, her mother, uncles, a few elders. The atmosphere was heavy, as though a verdict was about to be passed. "Sit down," her father commanded. Adaora sat, crossing her legs calmly, though her pulse raced. Chief Okafor cleared his throat. "We have considered the matter. It is clear that this man, Chuka, cannot meet the demands placed before him. We advise you to end this arrangement before you embarrass yourself further." Adaora's jaw tightened. Embarrass myself, or embarrass you? "Do not raise your voice," her uncle warned, but Adaora was already leaning forward, eyes flashing. "Let me say this clearly. I love Chuka. I will marry him, and if you insist on turning this into a market transaction, then fine. I will pay my own bride price." The room erupted. Her uncle leapt to his feet. "Abomination! How can a woman pay her own bride price? What kind of insult is this?" Her father's face darkened, his voice booming. "Adaora! You dare speak such words in my house? You want to drag shame upon us? Do you know what people will say?" Her mother's hand trembled against her wrapper. "Ada, please. Think carefully." "I have thought," Adaora snapped. "All my life I have watched women reduced to objects in the name of tradition. I work hard, I earn my money, I take care of this family. And now you expect a man who earns barely enough to survive to pay millions just to marry me? It is hypocrisy." Her father's palm slammed against the table. "Enough! As long as I live, no daughter of mine will disgrace this family with such madness." Adaora rose slowly, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. "Then perhaps I am no longer your daughter." The silence that followed was deafening. Her mother gasped, her father's eyes blazed, but Adaora turned and walked out, wrapper sweeping the floor behind her like a queen leaving a crumbling throne. News of her rebellion spread faster than Harmattan fire. By the weekend, Enugu was buzzing. At the salon, women shook their heads. At church, elders whispered disapproving prayers. On Facebook, distant cousins posted cryptic statuses about our culture under attack. Chuka, meanwhile, felt the walls closing in. His colleagues at school teased him half-jokingly. "So your wife will buy you, eh?" One teacher laughed. Another muttered, "These are the signs of the end times." He forced a smile, but inside, shame gnawed at him. That Sunday, he sat across from Adaora in her apartment, the weight of everything pressing between them. "Ada," he began quietly, "why did you say that? In front of everyone?" "Because it's the truth," she said firmly. "If they won't bend, then I will. I'm tired of this nonsense. You don't understand. You may think it's just money, but it's more than that. In our culture, bride price is about respect. If you pay your own, people will say I am not a man. They will mock me, mock us." "Let them mock," Adaora shot back. "What matters is us." "What matters," Chuka said sharply, "is that I can stand as your husband, not your charity case." Adaora's breath caught. For the first time she heard not just fear but bitterness in his voice. "Is that what you think? That I see you as charity?" He looked away, shame flickering across his face. "Sometimes, yes, you help me with rent, with bills, with small things. I appreciate it, but it makes me feel less." Her heart softened, but her pride bristled. "So because of ego, you'd rather let my parents destroy us?" "It's not just ego," he said quietly. "It's manhood, it's how I was raised." Adaora folded her arms, her voice breaking. "And what about me? My pride? Do you think it's easy watching my own family insult you? Watching them treat me like some prize goat being auctioned? If I stay silent, I betray myself. If I speak, I wound you. Where does that leave me, Chuka?" For a long time neither spoke. The hum of the fridge filled the silence. Finally, Chuka stood. His shoulders slumped, but his voice was firm. Maybe we should pause. Think. Because right now, I don't know if we're fighting for each other or against each other. He walked to the door, leaving Adaora staring after him, her throat tight, her chest burning with a mixture of anger and grief. In her family home, the tension only grew. Her father refused to speak her name. Her mother pleaded softly, urging compromise. Nkechi mocked openly, whispering that Adaora's teacher husband had turned her head upside down. Adaora buried herself in work, arguing cases with twice her usual fire, but inside she was unraveling. At night she replayed Chuka's words. I don't know if we're fighting for each other or against each other. She hated that he doubted her. She hated that she doubted herself. Yet still, the fire inside her refused to die. She would not bend. Not to her father, not to gossip, not even, perhaps, to Chuka. For the first time, Adaora began to wonder if love alone was enough. The city of Enugu had always been a chorus of noise. Hawkers calling, keiki horns blaring, church bells pealing from every corner. But for Adaora that month, the noise carried something sharper. Whispers. She heard them at the firm when colleagues thought she wasn't listening. Imagine, a whole lawyer marrying a teacher, and now she wants to pay her own bride price? Tu fiacqua. She has money, yes, but that's not how things are done. She heard them in the market, where her mother's friends eyed her with pity. Nay, are you sure this is wise? A woman's pride is in being married properly. If you buy your own husband, how will you hold your head high? Even in church, the sermon seemed to carry a message aimed at her. The pastor spoke about Sarah calling Abraham Lord, about the divine order of man leading woman. Every eye seemed to flicker in her direction. Adaora sat rigid in the pew, her jaw clenched, her faith colliding with her anger. Meanwhile, Chuka withdrew into himself. He still went to school each day, still marked exercise books, still led his students through Shakespeare and Achebe. But the laughter had drained from his voice, the spring from his step. At the staff room, colleagues made sly jokes. "Have you asked your fiancée for pocket money this week? Better behave before she cancels your allowance." He forced smiles, but each word sank like a stone. At night he lay awake in his small apartment, staring at the ceiling, shame pressing down like a weight. He loved Adaora, but he wondered if love could survive being turned into a punchline. One evening, Adaora stopped by his place with takeout. She found him sitting in the dark, the food untouched, exercise books stacked neatly but ignored. "You didn't even switch on the light," she said gently. He didn't answer. "Chuka?" Finally he spoke, voice low. "Do you know what they call me at school now? Ida's project. Your project." Her chest tightened. "People will always talk. Does their opinion matter more than us?" He turned to her, his eyes hollow. "It's not just their opinion, Ada. It's mine. Every day I feel smaller beside you. You win cases. You buy things. You talk boldly. And me, I am the man who cannot even afford to marry you." "That's not fair," she whispered. "It's the truth," he shot back. "And when you said you'd pay your own bride price, it cut me deeper than anything your father said. It told me you don't even believe I can stand as a man." Adaora swallowed hard, fighting tears. "I said it because I love you, because I refuse to let them break us." Chuka shook his head, voice cracking. "But in saving us, Ada, you may have broken me." Silence, heavy, unyielding. She set the takeout on the table, untouched. Then she left, her heels echoing down the stairwell like a funeral drum. Days turned into weeks. They spoke less, saw each other rarely. Adaora buried herself in court cases, coming home exhausted to her empty apartment. Chuka poured himself into his students, lingering in the classroom long after the final bell, as if teaching could drown the ache. The gossip only grew. Someone claimed Adaora had already transferred money into Chuka's account for the bride price. Others swore she had purchased one of the goats herself. The rumours warped with each telling, until the truth no longer mattered. Her father, emboldened, pressed harder. "End this madness," he told her one night, his voice cold. "You are humiliating this family. There are good men, doctors, politicians, waiting for you, yet you cling to a man who cannot even honour tradition." Adaora lifted her chin. "I would rather live alone than marry a man for his pocket." Her father's hand trembled with fury, but her mother's sigh was heavier. "Ada, is pride sweeter than peace?" Adaora turned away, tears stinging her eyes. Sometimes pride is all a woman has. The final straw came at a wedding. A friend from university had invited her, and though Adaora considered skipping, she forced herself to go. The bride was radiant, her husband dashing, their families laughing together as envelopes of cash rained down in celebration. At the reception, two women behind Adaora whispered loudly enough for her to hear. "See how properly this one was married. Not like that lawyer who wants to marry herself. Imagine paying your own bride price. God forbid." Adaora stood stiffly, plastering a smile, but inside something cracked. For the first time, doubt slithered in. Was she fighting a battle no one could win? That night, she drove to Chuka's apartment unannounced. He opened the door, surprised, a book in his hand. "Ada." She stepped inside, her voice trembling. "We need to talk." He set the book down, waiting. "I'm tired," she confessed. Tired of the whispers, the stares, the endless war. I thought love was enough, but maybe—" Her voice faltered. "Maybe it isn't." Chuka's shoulders sagged, relief and sorrow mixing in his eyes. "I've been thinking the same." For a long moment they just looked at each other, two people who loved deeply but stood on opposite sides of a canyon carved by pride and tradition. "Maybe we should end it," Adaora whispered. Chuka's throat worked, but no words came. Instead, he reached for her hand one last time, pressing it to his lips. The silence between them was louder than any fight. Adaora drove home through the sleeping city, her vision blurred with tears. Neon signs flickered, streetlights cast long shadows, and somewhere in the distance a night vigil sang praises. But in her heart, only questions remained. Could love survive without respect? Could tradition bend without breaking? Could pride be softened without shattering completely? She didn't know. All she knew was that the man she loved was slipping away, and for the first time, she wasn't sure if she could hold on. The days after their breakup moved like harmattan, dry, brittle, unforgiving. Adaora threw herself into her cases, winning verdicts with fiery speeches that left judges nodding. But when she returned home, the silence of her apartment gnawed at her. She missed Chuka's steady laughter, the way he listened with his whole body, the simplicity of his love. Chuka, too, felt the emptiness. His students noticed the dullness in his eyes, the heaviness in his voice. Once a little girl asked, "Sir, why don't you smile any more?" And he had to excuse himself before the tears came. Enugu buzzed with the gossip of their failed engagement. To Adaora's father, it was vindication. To Chuka's parents, shame. To the city, entertainment. But to Adaora and Chuka, it was heartbreak. Weeks passed before fate forced them together again. It was at the burial of an old family friend in their village. Adaora's parents insisted she come, as did Chuka's. Neither knew the other would be there, until Adaora, in a black lace dress, saw him across the compound. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world stilled. But pride, like a stubborn wall, kept them apart. She sat with her family. He sat with his. Throughout the service, she felt his presence like a shadow. It wasn't until the masquerade dancers began their slow procession that they finally found themselves side by side at the edge of the crowd. "Hi," Chuka said quietly, almost shyly. Adaora swallowed. "Hi." The drums beat in the distance, but the silence between them was louder. "I miss you," he said finally. Her eyes stung. "I miss you too." That night after the burial rites, Chuka walked her to her car. The moon hung low, silvering the village paths. "I've been thinking," he said softly, "about us, about everything." She nodded, waiting. "I know I can't give you the kind of wealth your father wants, but I can give you something money can't buy. Respect, loyalty, love. I need to feel like your husband, not your responsibility." Adaora's heart tightened. "And I need to feel like your partner, not your shame." They stood in silence, words floating between them. Finally she took a deep breath. "What if we find a middle ground?" He frowned slightly. "I'll stop talking about paying my own bride price," she said. "But I'll help in ways no one has to see. Behind the scenes, quietly, so your dignity stays intact and tradition is honored. Does that count as compromise?" Chuka's lips parted. Relief and gratitude washed over his face. "It counts," he whispered. But their families were not so easily swayed. When Adaora's father heard of their reconciliation, he exploded. "Do you think marriage is a game? Do you think I will sit by while my daughter drags this family's name through the mud?" Adaora lifted her chin. "Father, marriage is not about you. It is about me, and I have chosen." Her father's voice thundered. "You will regret this." But her mother, weary from weeks of quarrels, placed a hand on his arm. "Let her go. The world is changing, whether we like it or not." Chuka's parents, too, wrestled with pride. His mother worried about whispers, his father about honor. But Chuka, for the first time, spoke with a quiet authority. "I love her, and love is not shame. If tradition is strong, it will bend and not break." His father studied him long, then finally nodded. "A man who can defend his love is already rich." The day of the traditional wedding arrived. The compound filled with color, rappers in bright reds and yellows, drummers pounding rhythms, children darting between legs. Adaora entered in shimmering lace, her jella tall and proud. Chuka stood waiting, not in a designer suit but in a simple white kaftan, dignity radiating from him. When the kola nut was presented, when the elders recited blessings, when the list of bride price items was brought forward, Adaora's stomach twisted. She knew the goats, the wrappers, the bottles of palm wine had not all been purchased by Chuka alone. She had helped quietly, just as they agreed. But no one else needed to know. When Chuka's family laid the items before Adaora's, the murmur of approval rose. Her father's eyes were sharp, but her mother's smile was soft. The rituals unfolded. Adaora searching with a cup of palm wine, finding Chuka among the crowd, kneeling to offer him the drink. He sipped, his hands trembling as they touched. The cheer that followed was thunderous. And in that moment, Adaora felt something shift. Not victory, not defeat, but balance. That evening, as the celebration spilled into song and dance, Adaora and Chuka slipped away from the noise. They stood beneath the udala tree at the edge of the compound, fireflies glowing like tiny lanterns around them. "You look beautiful," Chuka said, voice thick with awe. She smiled, teasing. "So do you." He laughed, then grew serious. "Ada, thank you for bending when I needed it, for fighting when I couldn't, for loving me even when it hurt." Her eyes softened. "And thank you for standing, for refusing to let pride swallow us whole." He took her hand, squeezing gently. Maybe tradition and love don't have to be enemies. Maybe they just need patience. Adaora looked at him, her heart swelling. "Then let's be patient, together." And as the drums rose again in the distance, as the stars watched silently, Adaora knew this. Love had not conquered tradition, nor had tradition conquered love. Instead, they had learned to dance together, imperfect, uneasy, but still a dance. For her, that was enough.
If you've watched this story till the very end, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave your opinion in the comment section below. And guess what? A brand new video is coming in just a few days, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it. Until then, we'll meet again in the next video.